Let's implement that resetting and validation logic together. And let's start with resetting. Resetting generally is easy. Here in AddUser I just want to call setEnteredUsername and set this again to an empty string, and do the same also for setEnteredAge. Now with that, I reset my states to an empty string once I logged the state snapshot here. Now what you'll see, however, is that if I save this and I enter max and 31, we get the output here, but the inputs are actually not cleared. So setting our state snapshots to empty strings doesn't seem to work here, right? Well, it actually does work, but one problem we have is that we don't reflect our current state in the input. That's not a problem as long as we don't want to change it from anywhere else than user keystrokes, but here I want to change it when the form is submitted. So I want to feed the current state for entered username and entered age back into those inputs. And we can easily do that. These input elements have value props, and we can set them to values which will then be reflected in the inputs. And I can set my value of that first input to entered username, and the value of the second input here to entered age. And now I'll reformat that, and with that we'll have inputs which actually reflect the current state snapshot, even if it's not changed through a keystroke, but like here, upon a form submission. So if we now save that and try again, you'll see that now it's cleared. So that's step 1. Now for the validation. For the validation here in AddUser, I want to make sure that all this code here only executes if we have valid inputs. So if neither the name nor the age is empty, and the age is also not smaller than 1. For that we can add a if check here, and check if entered username trimmed is actually empty, which we can check by checking its length. Trim will remove any excess white space, and if it then has a length of 0, we know there is no character in that string, it's an empty string. And if that's the case, or if entered age is empty, so if we have the same check here, then I want to return. For now, I'll not do anything else. If I return here, then this code is not going to execute because return statements finish the function execution. Now I also want to check for my age input value, not just if it's empty, but also if it's not empty, if it's maybe smaller than 1. So I'll have another condition here, another if check, where I check if entered age is smaller than 1. And if that's the case, I also want to return. Now here's one important thing to keep in mind. Entered age is actually a string, not a number. We initialize it to a string here, and anything that's entered into an input is always retrieved as a string. That's just how JavaScript and the DOM and so on works. So we have a string here. Entered age is a string, not a number. Now I'm comparing it to a number here, and generally that should work in JavaScript, but to be super safe, we can force a conversion of entered age to a number by adding a plus here. And with that we ensure that, well, it is a number. With that, if I now save this, you will see that if I click Add User, we now got no log here on the right. If I enter max 31 on the other hand, we do get a log. If I enter max and the age is empty, I get no log. And if I enter a negative age, let's say, I also get no log. So our validation, our basic validation here seems to work. Now we'll take care about the error modal later. For now, let's make sure that for the cases where we do get valid inputs, we actually take those inputs and we store the different users in a list, which we then render below the input field. Now again, you can try this on your own. Otherwise, we'll build this together over the next lectures.